Thought today, seeing I'm stuck inside with the lockdown, that I'd have another look at one of my rifles. Now, it's a bit from the sublime to the ridiculous because the last video I did was on a fine piece of German engineering, and this one here is a Russian. Some of you may recognise it. It's a TOZ 17. I'm not sure if that's pronounced correctly, but it's TOZ-17, so that's what we call it. And you may recognise it from the bulb on the end of the barrel. Now I'm not quite sure why that's on there. It could be like a counterweight to cut down the vibration, or something to do with harmonics or something like that. And what would lend a bit of support to that fact was that there was a wee bit of thought had actually gone to the design of the rifle, because the barrel's actually free floated as well. Now I'm not going to pull it apart or anything, but the bolt comes out just the same way as most bolts come out, if you can get it out. Now, it's one of the most agricultural pieces of machinery I've ever owned. You're never quite sure when you put the bolt in whether it's actually going to go in or not, and when you do get in there, there's so much free play that you wonder how you could actually hit anything with it. But something magical must happen between the breech and the barrel, because it's a very accurate rifle, and they've got a really good reputation. You could probably expect to pay maybe $250 for a second hand one. This one here I paid $20 for because the magazine didn't work on it. It had a broken spring in it, but it was a pretty easy fix. But it's difficult to describe on camera how much free play there is actually in the bolt. The thing just about snaps in two when you wobble it. And this is not just to do with this rifle, because this one here hasn't had a lot of shots for it, although it's had the stock refinished. My friend's got one as well, a TOZ 16, and his bolt is exactly the same. It wobbles around all over the place too, and his is very accurate as well. This was not the rifle I used when I was doing a lot of shooting, like rimfire shooting. For a while there I was probably shooting a packet of ammo every night sort of thing, shooting rabbits and stuff. Yeah, as I say, I bought this later for $20. But an example of how reliable they are, my friend's was the TOZ 16. Now the TOZ 16 is almost identical to this, but it's got it's a single shot, so yeah, it doesn't take a magazine. So my friend modified it so it would take a magazine. Anyhow, we went on a rabbit shooting trip up to Central Otago. Now at the time my 22 that I used mostly was a Moser 107. Don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's just I think it was originally a Voer or whatever rifle. I think that's how you pronounce it. And Moser took over the factory, and it was a very accurate rifle. But anyhow, we were rabbit shooting up in high country, and you wouldn't understand what it's like shooting rabbits up there if you'd never actually been up there to do it. But when the population's high, it's the whole side of the hill will move when you walk into an area. There's just rabbits everywhere. And anyhow, we'd been up there in the winter shooting rabbits, and the owner of the sheep station quite appreciated what we were doing, because shooting a rabbit in the winter is equivalent to 20 in the summer. So it was a bit of a treat. He let us shoot a block that hadn't been shot for a long time. And as I said, you wouldn't quite understand what it's like, but we climbed over the fence into the area. My friend took the top of the gully, I took the bottom, and both of us shot non-stop for probably 3/4 an hour. You would line up one rabbit and another one would run into your scope while you're about to pull the trigger on the first rabbit. So you never had any difficulty finding the target, so basically you just fired flat out for 3/4 an hour. Now my poor old Moser, which is a fine piece of engineering, but not really built for the rough stuff. It was a combination of the dust and goodness knows what else. The bolt got harder and harder to close, but because there was still rabbits running around everywhere, I just kept forcing the bolt closed, and in the end I expect the bolt was bent, because that was it. It wouldn't work anymore. and it was very difficult to get the bullet up the spout. I was lucky I had two of them. Yeah, so yeah, that gun was just ruined. Whereas my friend who had the TOZ 16, he fired more shots than me, and he had no issues at all. And I guess that's down to a lot of stuff with the Russians. You know, they make it with generous tolerances, which means, you know, it's not so susceptible to getting a bit of dust in it and that kind of thing. You know, compared to the Morzo, the bolt, it's just horrible. But yeah, as I said, something between the breech and the barrel, something magical must happen, because it's easily as accurate as the Morzo. Yeah, I don't even see that. The bolt actually wobbles. There's so much free play in it. It wobbles around that joint there. But yeah, there's not too much interesting to say about a 22. But if you ever see one on the market and you just you know, just want something for maybe putting down animals or something like that, or that kind of thing, then you know, it may be worth the couple $100 you pay for it. As I say, 22s, you know, you don't really wear a barrel out on them. Well, I've worn one or two out, but that's because, you know, I used to shoot every night, sort of thing. Yeah. Now, that was sort of an example of how difficult it is to get the bolt in and out. You just got to have it right in the right place and the right amount of weight on a certain direction. But as I say, you know, it works. Now, I've got a funny story about the old TOZ. Not particularly this one, but when I lived out in the country, my neighbour had a TOZ, and one day I went round to their place for lunch, I think it was, and we were sitting around eating, and the TOZ was just propped up in the corner of the room, which I thought was a bit odd. But what the story was my neighbour had quite a lot of chickens that had been hatched, and they're all running around the place, and they got to a certain age. Now they were sort of semi-wild, I guess, but you know, at some stage they laid eggs and you went around and found them. But the problem was you didn't want too many roosters, and well, you didn't want any roosters really. And they're a bit hard to tell, the roosters, until they actually got to a certain age and started crowing. So what would happen is you'd be sitting there eating lunch, one of the chickens would finally find its voice and start crowing, and my friend's wife would lean out the window with the TOZ and shoot its head off, and that's how they used to sex their chickens. Yeah, yeah, thanks.